Hello everyone, today we're learning mציעא Daf Hayomi. We're going to start 3 lines down the last word in the line. Says the Gemara, Omar Rav Anon, Omar Shmuel. Rav Anon says in the name of Shmuel, Moishli Soimim, you have orphans and they have money and we want to take care of these orphans. Mutal alvoisim beribis. You're allowed to lend it out for interest. Omar Rav Nachman, Mishum diatmininu, because the orphans, Safina leisur, we could feed them something that's forbidden. Yatmi de achle de lav ninu, orphans who eat something that does not belong to them, leizlu, they should go bosa after shivkai, the one who left them. They should also die. Basically, because of Yisomim, why should you allow to give them issa? It's forbidden to lend out money and interest. Omale. So Rav Nachman told Rav Anon, Emali ezu izi gufa de'uv de'echave. Tell me, what was exactly the story that happened and that you worked out and you told me that you're allowed to lend out an interest, and probably the story, you miscalculated the story. Omalei, aududa, this, it's like a portable bath that's made out of copper. The Bnei Marukva, the sons of Marukva who is Soimim, the Ave Bei Mar Shmuel, that Shmuel was taking care of them. Tokil v'yoiv, he'd weigh this bath, how much it weighs, and he'd give it out to someone. Tokil v'shokile, and when he'd take it back, he'd weigh it again, and if it was missing any copper, he'd charge him for that copper. Shokil agra, he'd also take payment for giving out this bath. V'shokil pachta, and he'd also take where it went down in the weight. So Rav Anon said, I agra, if he's taking rent, loy pachta, he can't take where it went down in value because that's not like a rental, it's like a loan. The pachta, if he's taking down where it went down in value, loy agra, he can't take the rent. That means if he gives something and he gets it back in the same condition without the wear and tear, so that's called a loan. So you can't take money for that because that's interest. So if Shmuel did this for the sons, he must have held that you're allowed to lend out money of Yisoimim beribis. Omalei. So Rav Nachman told Rav Anon, Kiho, such a case, afilu bediknini namishori. Even Yisoimim who have long beards, it's mutter, even if they're not ktanim, the mevad to do. Domikabli olai chuscha denechosha. That even though that he's taking money for what the copper that was lost, I mean, if he weighed a kilo and now weighs 987 grams, he charges for those 13 grams, there's still going down in value. This bath goes in value. Why? The kama demakli, because this bath, the way they'd warm up the water, they'd make a fire underneath it. So and every fire that you burn underneath it, nachshav for the nechoshesh, for the copper, bati domer, the price goes down. Very good that he charged for the loss of copper, but for that the copper's getting blacker and worth less, he didn't charge. So that's like a schirus, and therefore, even though they took the way went down in value in the weight, but didn't take for going down in the value, they got black, and therefore it's a schirus, and therefore he's allowed to charge, and therefore it's mutter to do even if it's no yisoimim. Omar Rabba Barav Shila Omar Rav Chizda, Ba'amula Omar Rabba Barav Yosef Bar Choma Omar Rav Sheshes, Moishel yisoimim, money of orphans, mutal al voisam, kroiv leschar v'rochoik lehefsid. You're allowed to lend them out in a iska, even though that we said in a iska, if it's 50-50, you have to pay him his work that he's doing for your half. But if it's moishel yisoimim, even more than 50-50, even if the yisoimim are the investors and they're the manager who's taking it from the yisoimim, even though that the yisoimim get profits more than 50, and they only take responsibility less than 50, that's korev leschar, because very likely they'll make money because they profits more than 50. V'rochik lehefsed, but they're only taking responsibility on what they gave. That means if it loses or goes down in value, only less than 50. So it's far away from losing. Even though that's also to do it for someone who's not yosim, you're not allowed to lend it in such a way. For yisoimim, you're allowed to, because it's not ribis d'oraisa, it's only ribis d'rabbanon. And in a case where we have orphans, Rabbanon said you're allowed to do it. We're not going there in such a case. Tonu Rabbanon, we learned korev leschar v'rochik lehefsed, the case that we said that's mutter for yisoimim, Rosha. You're not allowed to do it. You're Rosha if you do it. Korev lehefsed, if the investor takes more than 50% of chances if it goes down in value, and he gets less percentage in when it goes up in value, chosed, that's a chosed because he's paying the manager a lot for managing his part. Because what's considered his part? Anything that's on his responsibility, and he's paying for that. So therefore he's considered chosed. If it's 50-50 or rochik mizeh or far away from that, he's not gaining a lot, but he's not taking a lot of interest, a lot of profit. That's a normal person. And like we said earlier on, you still need to pay him because chaybatel or toivel imunu betzir. Amalei Rabbaler of Yosef, Ani Zuzadiatmi Echav Dinelu, what do we do with money of orphans? Amalei Moisvinelu Bidina, we give the money to Bezdin to take care of it, to keep it. Viavinelu Zuza, whenever they need food, and they get a weekly wage. Amalei Vahokokali Karna, if you do it this way, the money's going to be finished. Before you know it, there won't be any money left, and the family will have nothing to eat. Amalei Mar Echovitz, he said, okay. What do you do? How do you take care of money? So you asked me, you didn't like the way I do it. What's your solution? Omalei, but Kinan, we look for Gavra, a man, the Islay Da'aba Pricha, they has golden pieces, and that's something that normally people don't give as a deposit. So if someone has it, it must be his. We take the gold from him as a deposit, and then we give him the money of Yisoimim, that the Yisoimim are more likely to profit, and they take less responsibility if it goes down in value or it loses. And then with that money, you feed the Yisoimim with the profit, and therefore the capital stays, and all the time they're making money. On the money they're making, you feed the Yisoimim, and therefore it's a much better solution. But if this person doesn't have gold, the person the manager, and he only has, let's say, something specific, a watch, a bike, something like that, we don't take it from him. Why? Maybe it's a deposit, someone deposited it by him. Like we said, gold, people don't normally deposit, but something like that, maybe someone deposit. Sorry. And then the person who deposited it by him will come, he'll say, it's mine. Yoav Simonim, he'll say, Simonim, this was mine, I'll give you Simonim about it. And he'll take it, and we won't have any deposit left. Omar Avashi, Tenach, Imashtakach Gabr, the Isle Daver Pricha, very good if you find this guy who has golden nuggets. Iloi Mishtakach Gabr, the Isle Daver Pricha. What happens if we don't find such a person? Nechu Zuza Diatmi will just feed the money with will feed the money of the Yisoimim to the Yisoimim, and there'll be no money left. Elo Maravashi, if we don't find such a person, this is what we do. Chazina and Gabr Demashpur Nechosa. We find a person who has fields and no one is saying that they're his, that there's no error on them. That means we believe that the person who owns the field and no one says it's not his. And someone who's trustworthy. V'shama dina deraisa, and he listens, he keeps the Torah. If we put him in cherem, he won't accept it. He'll pay whatever's needed not to be in cherem. And we give him the money v'soimi bebeitin and Bezdin korev leschar v'rochik lefset v'soimim, and we give him to invest it, and with the money that he gains, we feed the Yisoimim, and then the capital stays alive. Says the Gemara, Ayin Omid Beis, says a Mishnah. Ein mekablim to embarrass them Yisrael b'fnei shein ribis. So we learned that Eska is only mutter if you pay him his wages for doing the investor's part. Says a Mishnah, Tzon Barza, we learned it already, we'll explain it again. It means something that's fixed, like metal that's strong, to the investor. So the investor gives you, let's say, baby sheep to make them bigger, and we split the profits. But if it goes down in value, or dies or something happens to him, all the loss is on the manager. He takes full responsibility for the item. So that's called Tzon Barzel, because normally they do it with Tzon. And therefore it's Barzel, it's strong for the investor, because the investor can't really lose. If it goes down in value or something happens to these animals, he gets paid back. And if it goes up in value, he gains. So he has no loss, and therefore it's all like a type of a loan to the manager, and the manager's paying on this loan extra. So that's forbidden. And Rashi explained that really we can learn already from last Mishnah, and the reason why we mention over here it's for the continuation of the Mishnah. From Goyim, you're allowed to accept it. And you could borrow from them. You can lend out to Goyim. Beribis, no problem taking ribis from a Goy. And also with a ger toishav is a Goy who lives in Eretz Yisrael, who's mekaben on himself sheva mitzvahs bnei noyach. You're also allowed to do ribis with him. Says the Mishnah Vaita, Malve Yisrael mo'isov shel akum, a Jew could lend out the money of a Goy, midas akum, from the knowledge of the akum, of aloy midas Yisrael, not from the knowledge of the Jew, and the Gemara is going to explain exactly what this part of the Mishnah means. Says the Gemara, Lemeimra, you want to tell me from the case of Tzoin Barzel, the Berushusa the Mekabel Kaima, that the manager who takes Tzoin Barzel, it's in his responsibility, and therefore it's considered like a loan, and it totally becomes to the manager. Now these Tzoin Barzel are totally his, and that's why he's not allowed to pay for it, because it's ribis. And I have a kasha, Mekabel Tzoin Barzel min anochrim, someone who gets sheep from a Goy, and he takes full responsibility on the sheep. Vlodois, the babies that were born, even though that half of them belong to the Yisrael, Pturim in Apchera, there's no din Pchera on them, because animal of a Goy, there's no din Pchera on it. And it's a kasha, because if we said that it's considered totally the person, the manager's, it's like a loan, it becomes totally his. Like when Reuven gives money to Shimon on a loan, this money is totally Shimon's now. So also over here, if the Goy gave it to Yisrael, now this is totally the Jewish person, so therefore it should be Chayav b'Bchora. Omar Abaye loy kasha. It's not kasha. Hode mikabel alei oinzu v'zula. Over there about B'choros, it's talking about where the Goy took on himself responsibility if an oinus happens to the animal or if it goes down in value, and therefore the Goy is still involved in this animal, and therefore the B'chor is not B'chor, it's pot from B'chor. In the Mishnah where it said that it's forbidden and it's totally in the manager's hands and it's considered his, it's talking about where the investor took no responsibility on this animal. So that's the teretz. If when the investor accepts on himself that goes, if oinus happens, it's his responsibility, or if it goes down in value, it's his responsibility. Tzoin Barzel korslei. You call it Tzoin Barzel. Tzoin Barzel means that it's like strong by the investor. They have nothing to lose. Here he has what to lose. If it goes down in value, or if oinus happens, he's going to lose. Why are you calling it Tzoin Barzel? But and I'll tell you more so, if you call it Tzoin Barzel, even if the investor accepts on himself oinzu v'zula, add Tony Sefer. Why in the Mishnah, the only way it tells you that where Tzoin Barzel is mutter, it says in a case aval mekablim Tzoin Barzel in akum, just from a Goy, lifloik b'dei, we should tell you that even by a Jew Tzoin Barzel is mutter, and it should tell you b'medvar mamurim, when are you not allowed to accept Tzoin Barzel the loy kibel olei, when the investor never accepted on himself oinus onzu v'zula, if something happens to the animal or it goes down in value. Aval kobil more into v'zula, if the investor accepts on himself oines v'zoil, sharpedom, you're allowed to accept from him Tzoin Barzel, because then it's like a iska. So what's pshat? Elo marova, no, doesn't like Abaya's teretz. Idi the Mishnah Bayas and the Mishnah in B'choros, the loy kobil olei more into v'zula. It's not talking about whether the investor accepted on himself any responsibility. Begabe B'choros, and I'll tell you why by B'choros, I know tam, that's the reason the vlodos p'turim in B'chor, that the babies they don't have dim kedushas B'chor. Why? Keven di loyoy v'zuzi, if the Jewish person who accepted from the Goy, who took a full responsibility on it, and now he doesn't pay back the Goy, Osi Nochri, comes a Goy, Tofis lele behema, he'll grab the behema that he gave to the Jew as an investment because he owes him money. If you can't catch a behema, let the behema died or something, he'll take the babies that this behema had. So it's considered that the Goy has some hand involved in this animal, because he could come and grab it if the Jew doesn't pay him back for what he took responsibility on. And any time when a Goy has a hand involved in an animal, there's no din b'choros on it, even though that really belongs to the Jew, because the goy could come and grab it, therefore it's considered that the goy has an involvement, and therefore it's potter min abchora. It says in Mishlei, marbe oinoi beneshech v'tarbe, someone who makes money from lending out in interest, l'choinen dalim yikaptzeno. He is going to end up giving it to poor people, meaning in Pashtus it means he's going to lose his money. Says the Gemara, "My l'choinen dalim." What do they mean? Omarav, Kigoin Shvavel Malka, like the king of Persia that was named Shavel, and he used to take money from the Jews and he would give it to the poor non-Jewish people. So if someone makes interest money, that's what's going to happen. Omar Rav Nachman, Omar Lihuna, Rav Huna told me, Loi Nitzrucha, this pasuk is coming to tell you, Elo da filu ribis dovid kuchovim. Even if you took ribis from a goy, you lent out money interest for a goy and you got interest, even that you're going to lose because it's forbidden. Esiver Rav Nachman, Rav asked Rav Nachman, how can you tell me this? It says Mefurish in the Torah, in Devarim, La nochri tashich, that you're allowed to give money to a goy. My tashich, what does it mean tashich? Lav toshuch, does it not mean that you should lend the money with interest? And therefore it says clear in the Torah that you're allowed to give money to a goy with to get paid the interest back. So how can you tell me that you're going to lose your money because it's a bad thing? So the Gemara, loy, tashich. It doesn't mean that you should lend out your money to a goy with interest. It means you're allowed to borrow from a goy and pay the goy interest. But to lend out with interest is forbidden. Ask the Gemara Kash on that. Loy saki de lavochi. The Torah says interest is forbidden. So we know obviously that's all about Jews. So obviously we know already that goy is mutter. So why did the Torah have to tell you la nochri tashich that it was the commandment of the Torah to tell you that you should give interest money to a goy, that it's a mitzvah, or that the commandment to borrow money from a goy and pay him interest? It makes no sense. So the Gemara, no, lafuke ochicha deloy. You know what it's coming to tell you? You know why the Torah is telling you that for a goy you should pay him interest? It's coming to tell you that for a Jew you shouldn't pay him interest. Says the Gemara, by a Jew it says clearly they're not allowed to give him interest. It says that clearly in the Torah. Why do we need another pasuk? Says the Gemara, yeah, enochinami, we have a loisase already saying, and we know you're not allowed to give money interest to a Jew. But when the Torah said that to a goy you're allowed to, it's coming to say that if you to a Jew not, and it's coming to tell you not only oiva and loisase, you also oiva asay, because the lav michlal asay is considered asay. When the Torah tells you that for a goy you're allowed to give interest, and from there we learn that to a Jew you're not allowed, that's considered asay. Even though that's it's something that's forbidden to do, it's considered asay because it comes a lav michlal asay. So the Torah is telling you not only oiva loisase, you also oiva asay. We asked the Kashan Rav Nachman, Loibi Mehen, our Mishnah, it says you're allowed to borrow from them, and you could lend them money beribis. How can you tell me that you're not allowed to lend them out money beribis? Amarav Chia, Breder Rav Huna, Loi Nitzrucha. Really, it's forbidden to lend out money for interest to a goy. Oh, in our Mishnah it says it's mutter. Our Mishnah is talking about Elo Bichtei Chayov. If a person needs it for basic money to live off, then it's mutter. But to do more than that, to start making big profits, it's forbidden, because if you get used to lending out money and interest to a goy, you want to do it also to a Jew. And that's pshat in the Mishnah. Because mekadin for sure it's mutter. Says the Gemara, Ravino, another teretz. You know pshat in the Mishnah that you're allowed to lend money to a goy for interest? It's so about ocha betalmidei chacham maskinan. It's so about a talmid chacham. Why did Rabbanon say that even though the Torah you're allowed to lend out money to a goy for interest, you're not allowed to do it? Why is that? Maybe you're going to learn from his ways and you're going to get close to him. Since he's a Talmid Chacham who's lending out the money, he'll be strong and he'll keep away, and therefore in such a case there's no chashash. So you're not allowed to lend money to a goy for interest. Only if you're a Talmid Chacham, only then it's mutter. Shkoyach, the Shabbos.